Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. Big thank you to ARM for hosting us and allowing us to share a little bit about our company, and for all of you for being interested. A little bit about AviadoBio. Aviado is a CNS gene therapy company. We are very much focused on developing and translating groundbreaking science, coupling that with precision delivery, with the goal of translating and bringing life-changing medicines to patients living with neurodegeneration. We are very much taking an approach on both gene silencing and gene supplementation. So our pipeline consists of a combination of novel direct delivery and novel capsids, as well as spans across gene supplementation and gene silencing. And I'll tell you a little bit about that in a second. We are a clinical stage company, so our lead program is AviadoBio. This is a AAV9 program, which is very much focused for patients who have a genetic mutation in their GRN gene. These patients, GRN is effective for progranulin. When you have less progranulin in your body, you have this accumulation of TDP-43, which in essence causes the neurodegeneration. I'll tell you a little bit more about FTD if you're not familiar with it in a minute. This program is partnered with Astellas for an option for a worldwide exclusive license. Our pipeline beyond AviadoBio is a little bit earlier in stage, so we're about 1 year to clinic in our tauopathy program. I'll share a little bit more about that, but that program is using a proprietary microRNA platform coupled with some novel capsids to deliver. From a funding perspective and a stage of our company, we are post-Series B. So overall, to date, we brought in about $160 million. The company was founded in 2019. When we talk about precision delivery, what do we mean by that? It's a combination for us really across, as mentioned a minute ago, very novel and targeted delivery approaches spanning across direct delivery. So our lead program is intraparenchymal, direct into the thalamus, and our pipeline, again, is using novel capsids to deliver intravenously. We also consider the very targeted and potent RNA payloads as part of our key differentiator for delivery. We really believe that delivery is never going to be a cookie-cutter approach. I know that's the ultimate goal, is that we can have non-invasive or at least minimally invasive delivery approaches. We do think at Aviado that really will be tailored and customized depending on the different disease indication and what's required. In our case, obviously, working in neurological conditions, looking to target and cross the blood-brain barrier in a way that maximizes biodistribution and at the same time minimizes any safety challenges that we know exist today across the space. And then, of course, last but not least, when we think about delivery and precision delivery in particular, we think about the capabilities and the expertise required to do that safely. We have a team of neurologists, neurosurgeons in-house, and we've been working on this for the last 5 years to ensure that we can really achieve our goal of maximizing biodistribution while minimizing any safety impact, ultimately to bring therapeutic solutions to patients in need. This is a snapshot of our team. I always say behind every company is an amazing team. It's really the people that make the difference. The science will be the science. I'm really proud to say everyone in our company has gene therapy experience. Everyone has CNS gene therapy experience from the lab all the way through the executive team. And most of our team has worked across multiple organs and therapeutic areas across the cell and gene therapy space. We have 8 or 9 now investors, all blue chip, top tier investors. Our insiders have been with us from the beginning of the seed and continue through our Series B and remain committed to making sure that we can bring these therapeutics into the hands of patients who need them. This is a snapshot of our pipeline. As you can see here, we are clinical stage, or as mentioned a second ago, AviadoBio is in the clinic. We are taking an intraparenchymal approach using AAV9 to deliver and restore gene function. I'll tell you more about that program in a second. On our pipeline, we are actually announcing this tomorrow, so this is a bit hot off the press, but we've just licensed in an optogenetics program, or we have an option to license an optogenetics program with a company called Eugenics. They are in China. They will maintain the Chinese rights, and we will if indeed we exercise the option, be able to commercialize this program worldwide ex-China. On our in-house pipeline, we have a program called AviadoBio. This is really focused on tauopathies, again, taking our proprietary microRNA platform that has been developed in-house, coupling those with some novel capsids, so we have multiple shots on goal here, and really focused on it targeting MAPT as the target and looking at tauopathies including Alzheimer's, MAPT, FTD, alpha-synuclein, et cetera. And then we have a keen interest in ALS. We have paused our ALS programs at the moment, looking to decide whether to restart them, but at the moment they are paused, as well as a number of undisclosed areas of interest in our discovery groups. So a little bit about AviaBio 101. As mentioned, we do have a partner with Astellas, which has been a wonderful experience. Last year, actually, at the MESA meeting, we announced Astellas and our partnership. This is for a worldwide exclusive license should they exercise the option. We are in that option period currently. Astellas, as you know, is very much committed to gene therapies and very much interested in the neuroscience space. They gave us $50 million up front. They're a shareholder in our company, and if exercised, the deal is worth $2.2 billion plus royalties. The real benefit, as we all know, being in this sector, to have a partner, in the mid and large pharma side is, it just makes us stronger and be able to do these programs and get them to the hands of patients faster, better, et cetera. A little bit about FTD. I'm not sure how familiar you are with it, but actually FTD, frontotemporal dementia, is one of the most common forms of dementia in people under the age 65. So unfortunately, this affects all of us, people in our age group from 25 and up who are in the prime of our lives. It's very uncharacteristic to what you would think about when you think about dementia, or Alzheimer's, I should say. It really affects people more behaviorally or in the early stages. There's aphasia, so Bruce Willis is probably a most well-known FTD patient. Unfortunately, him and his family have been very active and vocal. He's got the aphasia variant, but the most common variant of this disease is behavioral, which means it starts very uncharacteristic, again, to normal dementia. People, who are normal, upbiding citizens all of a sudden start to, become alcoholics, lose their job, act very unruly, et cetera, and so it's often undiagnosed. We know today, from a prevalence perspective, there's about 100,000 FTD patients in the US and the top 5 Europe alone. It's believed to be about 10% of those are GRN specific, so this monogenic form of FTD, and about 30 to 50% of those are familial. My guess is it's just like other rare diseases, until there's treatments, they're really underdiagnosed, and most of these patients are kind of hiding under an Alzheimer's diagnosis. While the disease starts focally and locally in the front of the brain, as it progresses and becomes more severe, it becomes more global in nature and does then eventually look more like you would consider Alzheimer's with cognitive impairment, et cetera. The disease biology is very well understood, especially in this monogenic form. We know that these patients are born with 30 to 50% of less progranulin than you and I, healthy volunteers, would be. This, at some point, it's 100% penetrance. So at some point, they will become symptomatic. If you can restore the progranulin levels, you could at least stop the further progression, and or potentially, if you can treat patients pre-symptomatically, hopefully eradicate them from ever starting. It's very tractable. We understand the biology. We also, there's large natural history databases, so we know what the normal course of history looks like. It's unfortunately also a very fast-moving and progressive disease, so from the time of symptom onset to death can be anywhere between, on average, 5 to 7 years, a little bit longer, 13 years, but it moves very quickly. So from a clinical development standpoint, you can look at the differences. There are well-understood biomarkers, such as volumetric MRI, CSF, blood, et cetera. A little bit about our preclinical work that we've done to date. We are now in the clinic, so this is just really to show you that we had a very robust preclinical package looking at 3 different species, mice, sheep, and monkeys, almost 60 animals, and what we saw was that we could reach our goal, which to be proven in humans, of course, to maximize biodistribution while minimizing any safety. So we saw beautiful distribution, again, across all the cortical regions of the brain, which is very important because as the disease progresses, it does become global, as mentioned. And at the same time, we didn't see anything in the liver, blood, et cetera, which, as we know from other AAV9s, we need to be cognizant of and make sure we can monitor. And because of our direct delivery approach, we can use very low doses. We do have regulatory approval for our phase 1/2 in 8 countries, so US and including key markets in Europe, as well as we have sites open in Canada, so we're able to recruit. Our goal was to really develop a global footprint when we initiated our work, as opposed to just starting in one country and then expanding over time. This allowed us to do a couple of things. One, go where the patients are. We know a lot of these known families and the countries that they're in. 2, also, as we initiated the phase 1/2, and hopefully continuing all goes well, can go right into either an adaptive seamless design or whatever that registration package looks like. We won't lose any time, so we can keep going. So this very much global footprint has been already established and should enable us and or our partners at Astellas to keep going once we have the data that supports that, of course. This is a little bit of a snapshot of the study. It's a phase 1/2 open label dose escalating study. Primary endpoint is safety at 6 months. It's a 3x3 design, so we treat 3 patients at the lowest, obviously, dose that we know from our toxicology studies, and then we assess through a DSMB, and assuming the protocol mandates that assuming there's no safety issues, regardless of what we see from an efficacy perspective, we keep going up until the no-AL dose, and that's kind of where we are. So we're in our 3rd cohort of treating patients, and we'll continue to monitor. From a safety perspective, what we've seen has looked very good so far. We don't have any efficacy data just yet. This is a little bit of how we think about the endpoints of the study. Acute safety, it's a neurosurgical procedure. Again, intraparenchymal delivery direct into the thalamus. We've actually dosed the first ever, in-man neurodegenerative intrathalamic delivery. It's very kind of similar to what we've just seen with the Unicure program, where they're intraparenchymal into the striatum, we're into the thalamus. And so obviously surgical safety was very important to understand that it's usually in the first 2 weeks. And then, we look at CSF progranulin levels in the first 3 months. And then we start to look at more for indicators of how are we doing from, I wouldn't want to say efficacy by any means, but are we seeing what we want to see at the 6-month mark as far as biomarkers in the CSF, as far as volumetric MRI. These patients have a lot of atrophy, so you should be able to start to see some separation, at large enough patient numbers. And then ultimately, could be 12 to 24 months, it could even be longer. I mean, I think the recent Unicure data, where it took 3 years to show really a functional clinical efficacy benefit, is a good marker for all of us to think, okay, it's going to take some time to see in these neurodegenerative conditions. And then, of course, long-term safety and durability is always a question with the therapies that we're all developing. We've used the thalamus particularly because, it's got a lot of space from a trajectory standpoint, et cetera, but also B, because it is in a sense, a sensory relay hub to the brain. So while mentioned, the disease starts focally in the frontal and temporal lobe, as it progresses, becomes global in nature, and therefore, if you can use the thalamus in the brain to kind of distribute for you the protein, it is a secreted protein, to the rest of the brain, to get into the cortical regions of the brain, it's kind of a win-win. And so that's our goal: low dose, targeted delivery, with the goal to get to all the cortical regions of the brain. We saw this in our preclinical work, so we compared intrathalamic delivery versus ICM with our construct, as well as some of our competitors, and we saw nothing in ICM delivery. We saw definitely progranulin in the CSF, but as it relates to what was actually in the brain, we couldn't see anything for any of the constructs. And so we really believe that there will be a direct correlation between what we can get actually into the brain and as far as the effect that will have for patients, which is the goal. We are using the ClearPoint system. I think I just saw today ClearPoint issued a press release that now in 34 countries. So it is 510K in the US, CE marked in Europe. It is a minimally invasive procedure overall. Currently we're about 6 to 8 hours. So patients could be released the same day. We have been keeping them, overnight, at least just to see how they're doing, given we're in the early stages of development. But it is a stereotactic frame that's being used, bilateral administration. And again, I think there's going to be even more. So PTC has product Upstaza. It's already approved in the US and Europe with this ClearPoint device. The Unicure data set is out, also using the ClearPoint device. So I think we'll be seeing much more continued validation that this is an established kind of route of administration. So to date, from a safety perspective, what we've seen, we announced data through our first 2 cohorts. Again, we're now in the dosing of our 3rd cohort. What we've seen to date has been very favorable from a procedural perspective as far as the neurosurgical, as well as now, for patients. We're out, past 1 year for the initial cohort, and we've seen very good safety data to date. On the pipeline side, I gave you a snapshot before. As mentioned, we have a proprietary microRNA platform that was developed in-house. The goal of this is to be very potent, targeted, and to really reduce any off-target effects. We have brought in the option for 2 novel capsids to give us multiple shots on goal. I know there's still questions out on novel capsids, but there's a tremendous amount of preclinical data anyway. We're all waiting to see the translation to human, of course, and we're all rooting for that. But as we think about going from smaller, whether it's monogenic or rare disease, to larger indications like Alzheimer's, et cetera, Parkinson's, we really need to find a way that is scalable. And so our hope and prayers are that we'll be able to do this intravenously. And then, obviously very much focused on being very tissue and cell specific, which again, to minimize any off-target effects.
Thank you, AviadoBio. You have reached your end time.
Thank you so much.
We'd like to now call up